Hello everyone, my name is png.jpg, but you can call me PNG for short. I was going to make a video about the Season 4 mid-season patch, but in light of recent news, well, sort of recent, I've decided to change my video into a PvE opinion, and sorry that it's so late. I took a small break from Overwatch after the news because I just couldn't get into it, knowing that the game I had been waiting for wasn't coming out, but if you know me, you know I could never quit Overwatch forever, so here I am. Now, if you somehow haven't heard yet, PvE as we knew it is essentially cancelled. There will be no skill trees, no endlessly replayable hero missions, and no single drop of huge story content. But we will still be getting a PvE mode, and that's something I've noticed a lot of people don't seem to mention in their YouTube titles and thumbnails. It's all like PvE is cancelled and not PvE isn't what we were promised, both of which I think are good titles. Obviously my video is titled My Thoughts on PvE slash Overwatch 2, because that's my format, but I refuse to be disingenuous like Blizzard or my fellow content creators. I respect pretty much all of them, but I don't want to see incorrect or overblown information being spread. That's not right. First, I want to say I'm not shilling for Blizzard. I just want to tell you the truth and point out the fact that others aren't telling all of it. So, I will tell you what we are getting. We are being delivered a PvE experience seemingly not too dissimilar from the Archives missions that I won't imagine will be terribly replayable. It will come in waves with seasonal releases. This, to me, doesn't sound too bad. Does it sound like what we were promised? Just about as much as No Man's Sky was what was promised on release. But does it sound fun? Absolutely. I have no doubt in my mind that I, at the very least, will enjoy this mode. There will be, at the very least, 4 players who play this game mode. Me, and 3 of my friends who I forced to play it with me. I loved the Archives missions, and I plan to play this PvE mode to its absolute fullest despite all the negative news about it. Speaking of negative news, I watched Samito, Flats, and Frito's videos on the news, and I listened to the Group Up podcast episode about it, and I have to say, they are way too doomer about this. Even Frito, who I think is the most positive, is still too doomer about it. He says in his video that this thing we are getting isn't PvE. That's quite a statement, considering that it is, by definition, PvE. He says it isn't what we were promised, a full-fledged game, Diablo style, which is very true, but that doesn't change the fact that what we're getting is a PvE experience. You aren't being lied to, it is PvE in the same way that the Archives missions are PvE and that Junkenstein's Wrath of the Bride was PvE. Samito says this is all Team 4's fault and that they've been incompetent from day one. I truly do not believe this. I believe in Team 4, and I think they're better than this. Which I think is quite obvious, since they're willing to stop doing what wasn't working and deliver us something amazing, but just less so than what was promised. I'd rather get some PvE than absolutely none. It takes a lot in development to stop, look around, and say this isn't working, we need to change, and I'm proud of Team 4 for having the confidence to make that decision. Sure, their balancing isn't the best, and their content recently has been a little hit or miss, but they're still a competent team of developers, and we should give them the courtesy of acknowledging that. Now, I don't resent these content creators either. They're disappointed and angry just like the rest of us. But I feel I have to be more reasonable, and admit that mistakes can be made, and bad decisions can have a large, lasting impact on development, and that it's okay to go back on those decisions if you can't reasonably deliver on what you promised. Now, all this isn't to say that I'm not disappointed or angry. Team 4 is a large team of good developers, and Activision Blizzard is a gigantic company. They should have absolutely been able to realize that this wasn't going to work very soon into development, just seeing the scope of what was required and how many developers they had to make the game. They had to develop 2 games at once. Of course this wasn't going to work out. And the fact that they promised such big things just to go back on it later is obviously terrible. And the fact that they went back on it so much later is even worse. Like I said, early in development this problem should have been apparent. It's honestly disgraceful that this was even allowed to happen, and I need to know whose fault this was. Was it Bobby Kotick and his team of executives pushing for something completely ridiculous? Or was it really Aaron Keller and Team 4 wanting to stick it to Bobby and do what they had always planned? We may never know. And if it was Bobby Kotick, that's a damn shame, because the Overwatch developers have to take the heat for this decision that may not have even been theirs to make. I hate to say it because I love this game, but Overwatch's appearance to the wider gaming community is probably completely ruined beyond repair. And they really did do it to themselves. They decided to make it an improvement to a perfectly good game, and someone said it absolutely had to be a sequel with PvE, so they needed to absolutely strangle every last bit of life force out of their original game to develop the sequel, constantly promising that PvE was coming at some point to make it all worth it. And then finally finally we get to see an announcement regarding PvE, the thing we've been waiting for, the thing we gave up our game for. It's gone. Dead. Rip and piss, you will not be missed. No one said anything for years. If we had known this earlier, no one would have bought shop skins or battle passes, so they hid it from us for a year and a half, which is just disgraceful. The community who stuck by your game, defended every terrible decision you made, stuck their necks out in all their friend groups to get more people to play Overwatch again just because they believed so confidently that you would be able to deliver on the huge promises you made 4 years ago, and you betrayed them. You lied to them, deceived them, made them think that everything is okay because PvE is on the way when it hadn't been for years. But anyway, no one is going to believe in Overwatch ever again. We lost good updates, good balance, good gameplay, good players just for PvE, and it was all for a half-baked experience akin to what we already had 5 years ago. Everyone already lost faith in all of those other things, but PvE was our biggest hope. It was something we all thought Blizzard could deliver on, and they didn't. It really is over. I hope Blizzard realizes that they aren't getting any new players for years now, and they have to go back to catering to the audience they already have. If they're lucky, we'll all decide to stay, and maybe the game can get new players again 3, 4, or maybe 5 years from now, when everyone's forgotten what happened here. But it isn't happening right away, and no amount of free skins will fix what happened these past few weeks. Overwatch is my favorite game of all time, and I never plan on leaving, but this is just disheartening. I don't ever remember feeling this bad about Overwatch's future since we all thought Overwatch 2 was coming out in December 2024. But even then, we had a glimmer of hope. We had PvE to look forward to. We had that big, massively replayable and customizable campaign to enjoy and play for years, to grind out to our heart's content. And then they just dropped it all and gave us Archives++. And I can't even begin to describe how disappointed I am that this is how it all ended. But it's not over yet, and we still have to see exactly what this PvE will look like. However, with how their balance patches and events have been going recently, I really don't have enough faith in them to make it good. Finally, that's all I have for you today. I can't even think of anything else to say, so goodbye.
Good kitty, good kitty, good kitty. What? Hello there. Let's take him to the wasteland!